My name is Beth Carver, and the day I found out what my sister had done, I was sitting in my father's hospital room holding his hand while he slept. His breathing was shallow, the machines were quiet, the room smelled like antiseptic and old flowers that nobody had changed in 3 days. My phone buzzed. It was an email from a law firm I didn't recognize. The subject line said, "Notice of Business Interest Transfer, Carver Supply Co." I read it twice, then a third time. My name was gone. 31 years of my father building that business, 22 years of me working in it, and in the space of 6 weeks while he was sick and medicated and scared, my sister had walked in and taken it all. I put my phone face down on the chair beside me. I looked at my father's face. He didn't know what she had done. I was certain of that. I was certain of it the way you are certain of something you cannot yet prove. She had no idea that the accountant had kept everything. Every email, every instruction, every request she had sent him for 8 months before my father got sick and for 6 weeks after. All of it, printed, filed, dated. She had no idea he had already called me. I'm Beth. I'm 38 years old. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I manage operations for Carver Supply Co., a regional industrial parts distributor my father started from a warehouse on the east side of town 31 years ago. We supply parts to manufacturing plants, construction companies, small repair shops. It is not a glamorous business. It is a real one, the kind that runs on relationships and reliability and showing up every single day. I have been showing up every single day for 22 years. I started when I was 16, summers first, answering phones, filing invoices, learning the inventory system my father had built by hand in a spiral notebook. When I graduated college, I came back full-time, not because my father pressured me, because I loved it, because I understood it, because when I walked into that warehouse and smelled machine oil and cardboard, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. My father's name is Raymond Carver. He is 67 years old. He built that company out of nothing, and he poured every year of his working life into it. He's the kind of man who shakes hands and means it, who remembers the name of every employee's spouse and child, who stayed late every Friday for 30 years to make sure the week closed clean. He has a younger daughter, too. My sister, Vanessa. Vanessa is 34. She lives in Dallas. She works in marketing for a tech company and has for 6 years. She visits Tulsa 4 or 5 times a year. She is charming and quick and knows how to make a room feel like it was waiting for her to arrive. She has never worked a day at Carver Supply. Not one. Before I go on, where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments below. And if this is your first time here, please subscribe. New story every single week. I'm glad you found this channel. My father's diagnosis came in February. Pancreatic cancer. The same words that change everything the moment you hear them. The doctor said it carefully, and my father nodded slowly, and I sat beside him and held it together until I got to my car, and then I did not hold together at all. We had a plan. Surgery first, then treatment. The doctors were cautiously optimistic in the way doctors are when they want to give you hope without making promises they can't keep. Vanessa came up from Dallas the week after the diagnosis. She stayed for 10 days. She was attentive and present and helpful in ways I hadn't expected. She cooked, she sat with Dad, she drove him to 2 appointments. I was grateful. I told her so. I should have been watching more carefully. The business had a structure. My father owned 60%, I owned 20%, built up over years through a formal buyout agreement we'd signed when I was 28. The remaining 20% was held in a family trust. The company had an accountant named Gerald Marsh. Gerald had worked with my father for 19 years. He knew every number, every contract, every obligation the business carried. He was 62 years old and methodical and completely without pretension. He called my father Mr. Carver, even after 20 years of being told not to. In March, 6 weeks after the diagnosis, I got an email from a law firm in Tulsa I didn't recognize. My 20% stake in Carver Supply had been transferred to Vanessa. I called my father's attorney immediately. His name was Paul Whitfield. He confirmed the transfer had been executed 3 weeks earlier. He said my father had signed the documents. He said the transfer appeared legal on its face. I asked if my father was alone when he signed. He paused. Then he said, "I wasn't present at the signing. A mobile notary was used." "Who arranged the mobile notary?" I said. Another pause. "The request came from your sister's attorney," he said. I sat with that for a moment. My father was on a significant medication regimen at the time of signing. Pain management, anti-nausea, a sedative for sleep. He was not the man who built a business from a spiral notebook. He was a frightened, sick man who loved his daughters and trusted them both. Vanessa had known exactly when to move. I went to see my father that afternoon. I sat with him for 2 hours. I didn't bring it up. He was tired, and the light in the room was thin, and I just held his hand and listened to him talk about the warehouse on the east side and the first big contract he ever landed, and a man named Hector who worked for him for 20 years and made the best tamales in Tulsa. I didn't tell him what his other daughter had done. Not yet. Vanessa called me the next morning. I picked up. "I know Paul called you," she said. Her voice was even, prepared. "He did," I said. "Beth, Dad wanted this. He told me himself that he was worried about the business if something happened to him. He wanted me more involved." "You've never worked there," I said. "That's going to change. I'm going to relocate. I want to be part of it." "Vanessa, Dad was on 3 medications when he signed those documents. He didn't fully understand what he was signing." "That's a serious accusation. It's a serious situation." "If you try to fight this," she said, and her voice went quiet in the way I recognized from childhood, the way it got when she was certain she had already won, "you will spend money you don't have on a legal battle you won't win, and you'll do it while Dad is sick. Is that really what you want?" I didn't say anything. "Let it go, Beth," she said. "It's already done." She hung up. I put my phone on the kitchen counter. I stood there for a long time. Then I called Gerald Marsh, and that was before I found out how long she had been planning. Gerald picked up on the second ring. He said he'd been expecting my call. He said he needed to tell me something, and he wanted to do it in person. I drove to his office that afternoon. Gerald Marsh's office was on the second floor of a building on Denver Avenue. Small, tidy, walls lined with filing cabinets that he organized by year, going back to 1987. He was a man who kept everything, not digitally, physically, printed and filed and labeled in a system only he fully understood. He poured 2 cups of coffee and set one in front of me without asking how I took it. He'd known me since I was 20 years old. He knew how I took my coffee. He opened a manila folder on the desk between us. "Vanessa started contacting me 8 months ago," he said, "before your father was diagnosed." I looked at him. "She said she was concerned about succession planning. She asked detailed questions about ownership structure, about how shares could be transferred, about what would be required to change the ownership percentage." He turned the folder around so I could read it. Inside were printed emails, 17 of them, 8 months of correspondence between Vanessa and Gerald, questions that started broadly and got more specific with each exchange, questions about transfer mechanisms, about signing requirements, about what constituted legal capacity in Oklahoma. She had been researching how to take the company before my father was even sick. "Why didn't you tell me?" I said. Gerald looked at his coffee cup. "I didn't know what she was planning," he said. "The questions seemed like due diligence. I answered them professionally. I didn't put it together until the transfer documents arrived and I saw the notary date and the medication log from his chart that Paul forwarded me." He reached into the folder and pulled out one more page. "But I kept every email," he said. "Every single one. I keep everything, Beth. Your father knows that about me. It's why he trusted me for 19 years. I looked at that stack of paper. 17 emails. 8 months of planning. Her own words asking exactly how to do exactly what she did. "What do I do with this?" I said. Gerald folded his hands on the desk. "You call the right attorney," he said, "and then you let the emails do the talking." The attorney's name was Caroline Voss. She specialized in business litigation and elder financial abuse. Angela had referred her. Caroline had a reputation for being precise, thorough, and completely unmoved by intimidation. I met with her the following week and brought Gerald's folder. She read every email twice. She reviewed the transfer documents. She reviewed my father's medical records from the date of signing, specifically the medication log. Then she looked up. "Beth," she said, "what your sister did has a legal name. Undue influence over a vulnerable adult. Combined with the premeditation documented in these emails, this is a strong case." She filed an emergency motion to freeze the transfer pending a capacity hearing. The motion cited my father's medication record on the date of signing and attached Gerald's email correspondence as evidence of premeditation. The freeze was granted in 72 hours. Vanessa's attorney responded immediately. They claimed the transfer was valid, that my father had been of sound mind, that the emails were simply responsible succession planning. Caroline submitted a request for an independent medical evaluation of my father's capacity on the date of signing. The evaluating physician reviewed the medication log and the dosage levels and submitted a written opinion. His conclusion was that my father's capacity to make complex financial decisions on the date of signing was significantly impaired. I almost stopped. I almost let it go. There was a week in the middle of all of it where my father had a difficult few days, and I spent most of my time at the hospital, and the legal process felt distant and exhausting and small compared to the man in that bed. I sat with him one evening and he asked me how the warehouse was doing. I told him it was fine. It was running clean. His people were showing up every day. He smiled. "That's because of you. It's always been because of you." I didn't tell him about the case. I didn't want to put that weight on him. But I didn't stop fighting either. The case settled 4 months later. Vanessa's attorney made the first offer at month 2, a partial restoration, 10 of my 20% returned. Caroline said no. Second offer at month 3, 15% and a cash payment for the remaining 5. Caroline said no. Full restoration or trial. The week before the scheduled hearing, Vanessa's attorney called Caroline directly. Full restoration of my 20% stake, legal fees covered, and a formal legal agreement that Vanessa would have no claim on Carver Supply Co. during my father's lifetime, without documented consent from both remaining shareholders. Caroline called me and read me the terms. "Take it," I said. The agreement was signed on Tuesday. I drove to the warehouse that afternoon. I parked in my usual spot. I walked through the front door. Hector was at the loading dock checking a manifest. He looked up and nodded. "Miss Beth," I said. "Hey, Hector." I walked to my father's office, sat in his chair, looked at the framed photo on his desk, the two of us at the ribbon cutting for the second warehouse, me at 26, him at 55, both of us squinting into the sun and laughing at something I can't remember now. I just sat there for a while. My father is still fighting. He finished his second round of treatment last month, and his numbers are moving in the right direction. He doesn't know the full story of what happened. I've told him there was a legal matter involving the business structure that has been resolved. He nodded and said he trusted me to handle it. That's the whole weight of 22 years in one sentence. Vanessa and I don't speak. I don't know if we ever will. I understand desperation and fear and what watching a parent get sick can make a person do. I understand it. I don't excuse it. Gerald Marsh still works with us. He got a raise in March. He didn't ask for it. I gave it to him because 19 years of keeping everything saved everything. Some people think documentation is paranoia. I think it's respect. Respect for the truth, respect for the work, respect for the people who built something real and deserve to have it protected. My father built something real. I'm going to make sure it stays that way. If someone has ever tried to take what you built, what you earned, what you showed up for every single day while they weren't watching, I want you to know something. The record you kept quietly is the case you win loudly. The emails exist. The dates exist. The truth has a timestamp. Don't let anyone tell you it's already done. Drop a comment below. Tell me your story. Tell me what you would have done. I read every single one. Hit that like button. Help this story reach someone who needs to hear it today.